Griselda.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show today. Matt Koetting. Matt, how's it going, brother?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Good, good. If you could, for my listeners, could you give us a little bit of the resume here? What would we get into with the company?
The origin story.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, well, I'm currently the chief executive officer for Invictus International, a security services firm. We do security and risk management out in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been working the private sector security market since about 2016 in Nevada, California, a little bit of Arizona, some stuff internationally and around the country. And yeah, man, that's kind of the modern day basis of it. We employ somewhere between 200 to 250 people, event basis type stuff as well, and serve a lot of different types of clients out here as well. So
Okay. And you're also a Marine Corps veteran. You '03?
I was, man. I was joined the Marine Corps 2006. Went to Paris Island and SOI on the East Coast out of Detroit, Michigan. And then I ended up being one of, I think it was six of us that went out to 3rd Marines, 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines out in Hawaii. I
Oh
was
yeah.
uh, I was a 0351 by trade, became an 0331 machine gunner when I got to the fleet. Thank God. I think it was that or Mortarman because they had too many 0351s.
Gotcha.
And then, I mean, I don't know, you're a 3rd Marines guy too. It had a great career out there. First enlistment, lots of deployments,
Different kind of
couple
vibe
out.
out there in Hawaii, huh?
Yeah, it's weird. I think being a Detroit guy, like the first thing was like, oh shit, it's $2,000 for a plane ticket back home.
Oh shit.
Um,
Oh my
and you get
God.
over that pretty fast when you realize, you got a whole nother life out there and whole, island chain to explore out there. And
So you
um,
didn't get the landlocked feeling then?
I don't, I think I definitely was a little bit weirded out by like, you go out, you blow your first paycheck in Waikiki and you're like, shit, like, how am I going to afford to live here?
Bro,
I went out there.
Halloween in Waikiki. Whoa,
Yeah, it
look
gives
out.
Vegas a run for its money, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
facts.
Actually, they just passed. Well, it's a whole nother like part of the story. I worked in the legislature out there for a little while as
Oh no
well,
shit.
but I think they just passed like a House resolution or a House bill or something to change the date Hawaii or to change the date that Halloween is celebrated in Hawaii. So they're gonna do it like not on a weekday, so it doesn't like
Yeah,
screw up. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That seems weird, but good luck.
responsible right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. That'll just make people celebrate 2 days.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, man, I loved it out there. We did the Haklania deployment, and then I say Karma. We were like, I think the majority of the battalion was down at Bahria and Camp
Okay.
Fallujah. We were out at the
Yep.
Karma IP station with weapons
Okay.
platoon. And then I did Marja or Nawa into the Operation Mashtarak in Marja.
Okay.
Um,
What year was that?
February 2000. Well, it was 2009 into 2010. I got hit in February of 2010. That kind of threw my career for a loop.
IED.
Yeah, man, we were clearing. I want to say it was Route Olympia. It might have been the six. It was like the east-west running supply route, and we were pushing that open to get route clearance platoon to do like a passage of lines. And
Okay.
one of the mine rollers hit a anti-tank mine with a bunch
Oh,
of yellow jugs. Had me, my corpsman, I think
Map
about
V
seven
or
other.
MRAP?
It was a map. No, I think it was a MRAP then.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was an MRAP. I got a picture of it somewhere, but it was a fucking launched us.
Big boy.
Yeah, I was standing about 2 feet from it, so I'm pretty lucky, man. I don't
Oh,
really like.
you were dismounted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was an anti-tank mine, so we had blown
Oh,
probably I want to say like 3 or 4 IEDs in place, like controlled deaths that day that we
yep.
found with engineers and EOD and everything. And that route has, the road is risen and
Yep.
there's two canals on either side of it, and So yeah, I just landed in a fucking river of human shit.
Fuck.
All kinds of infections and everything. Mass cats in my squad. Nobody died from that one. And then they flew me. PJs flew me out of there into Bastion or Leatherneck. Did some surgeries there. I
Then
want to say
push
it was
over to
Canada.
Germany.
I went to. I want to say I went to Kandahar as the next stop, but like I was on a fucking like a shitload of Dilaudid morphine.
So you don't remember a goddamn thing.
You know, and I got hit in the head and fractured my orbital socket out here. This eye was completely blind. I had a bunch of rocks and shit in this eye and
Oh
developed a bunch of
fuck.
cataracts over it. So I was pretty much blind, like at least legally, like not driving a car or anything.
Yeah,
Went to
yeah.
Germany from there and then went from Germany to Bethesda and spent, let's say, about a month in Bethesda.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Shit, man. Anything to do with the eyes, scary, bro. Because when you
Dude, I'm the worst on the range. Like, put your fucking eye pro on. You got two of them. Like, keep them. You
facts,
know. So,
facts.
um, but yeah, did that, and then I went through the Wounded Warrior program. The Marine Corps is pretty good to you when you're in Wounded Warriors. And I gotta say, like Navy medicine, everybody treated me pretty well, man. They got to throw a lot of stuff your way to the point where you get like uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, of course.
Um, Went from there. Uh, Really wanted to get back to the Fleet Marine Force.
Yep.
Tried to kind of like figure out how to do that. The whole
What
there's a
year is this for you?
So this was 2010. So I was
No, but
in
how
recovery.
far were you? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. What was it?
How long were you in for?
Oh, so 2006 to 2016.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so 2010 I got hit. Went to Wounded Warriors. Met a man by the name of Colonel John One Lung Bates. He was a Vietnam vet, Third Marines guy. He
Savage.
was a sergeant in Vietnam. Got hit 3 times, 3 Purple Hearts. Got retired. Came back, commissioned as a lieutenant. Retired as an OIF vet also. Um,
Wow.
yeah, the guy's fucking Captain
Nom
America, man.
and OEF, bro. Come
Yeah,
on.
oldest battalion commander in the Marine Corps at the time for 2-3. Before you got there, but 2-3. His son just retired as a lieutenant colonel or a colonel, I think. And yeah, the guy's he's a champ, man. He still spends a lot of time with the Marines out there. He's just a fucking living legend. Still jumps out of an airplane several times a
Savage.
year.
Savage.
Um,
You
yeah,
see
so
two threes no more?
yeah, that was
R.I.P.
I felt for you guys, man. I didn't know how, like, I'm interested in like how that made you feel, I guess. Um, but
I
the Marine
mean,
Corps changes, man.
yeah,
I'm
I know,
fucking,
I know. I guess that comes with like growing up and getting older. Shit changes and it gives you that you can understand your elders so much more, dude. When shit
yeah,
like that
yeah, yeah,
happens. I
yeah.
don't know.
It's
Someone told me this the other day, dude, that like GWAT vets are starting to get looked at like, or people are starting to look at us like Nam, like we looked at Nam guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, because
Oh, dude, I've been the get off my fucking lawn guy for years. Yeah, my wife says
yeah,
that shit all the time because her dad was a Vietnam vet. He recently passed, and it was funny the comparisons of things that I don't know. It's just my experience with Vietnam vets is very wide. I've always looked up to those guys a lot, and Colonel Bates was a guy that like I think Wounded Warriors like they had kind of conditioned me like you're going to retire. They're like I was on I don't know if it's how they do it now, but they have periods of limited duty. And they put me on, I was on like my third period of limited duty. And they're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. I want to go back to the Marine Corps. I want to go do something. I was, I coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like I wanted to go to MARSOC and we had kind of like put in the paperwork prior to that deployment. Um, and I didn't make it over there. It was like not medically qualified to do that from Wounded Warriors. But I found my officer in charge was a fourth force recon guy, dual cool. I didn't really know what recon was because Hawaii, we had fourth force out there, but we didn't really see him much. Um, so he goes, well, if you can go to McQuis, he goes, I think you can get a seat in BRC. And I was like, all right. So I went
ugh.
to McQuis. That was the only time I ever wanted to drive my truck into a
I was
tree
just gonna
instead of
say it,
going to
dude.
work. Yeah,
Yucky.
like I
No,
want to quit
thank you.
so bad.
That's not easy,
I
dude.
was I was a pretty good swimmer. I ended up There was a lieutenant that should have beat me in the class. Full disclaimer, but I ended up pulling honor grad out of that. The colonel was pretty impressed, and I think some higher ranking officers put a drug deal together for me to go over to BRC, and I did that, and then spent time at First Recon and First Force, and had a couple other injuries. Kind of just the GWAT was over. We did a
Yeah,
MEU, which was it was a cool experience. Don't get me wrong. We did some
wasn't the
cool guy
same.
shit. Um, I'll tell you what, man. Like I was so grateful to be part of that crew. And I
Absolutely.
always was just like, man, I'm just a grunt that like got lost and fucking ended up here. So I never was really like the fucking, yeah, recon platoon kicks butt. I mean, I kind of am more now, I suppose. But I root for those guys. I root for the fucking grunts and the crunchies and shit all the time, man.
Of
Especially
course.
machine gunners, man. There's nothing like fucking machine gunners. Um,
What's your gun, bro? You
240,
got to
baby.
pick. Yeah.
240 all day
Yeah.
long. Yeah,
Yeah.
no
Why?
question
Just
about it.
because you can manipulate it and you can, in an environment, you can, take it off and run with it. I hear you.
Look, the Mod Deuce is fucking dope. I love that thing. I love the Mark 19. I mean, I even like I took a lot of pride in teaching guys saws. Um,
Saws are my favorite, dude. I love a saw. I
I
don't
just
know
I
how you
always said
feel
like
about them replacing it, dude. You see that the Army's kind of like bringing in that new SIG thing?
I've shot one of the SIG 338 machine guns. It's pretty fucking cool. I mean, at the end of the day, machine gun's a machine gun. You're gonna have heavy, medium, light, or some variation thereof, and they're making the technology better for the guys. And ounces are pounds, and pounds are pain. And if you can take it off and give them
Facts.
more ammo to carry, fucking, I'm all about
All
it.
about
They're
the
still gonna
weight.
be fucking, big shouldered motherfuckers that are carrying
Yep.
that shit around. So it's good.
Absolutely. What do you think? Kind of on the same subject, dude. What do you think about how drones are kind of taking over, man? I mean, we're all watching the
Um,
footage about like Ukraine and seeing how they're absolutely tearing fucking shit up. Like is combat just
it's changing, man. It's changing.
changing to it? Yeah.
So one of the coolest things I did as a recon marine was I got a seat in the TAC-P, the JTAC course. I
Okay.
became a
Awesome.
JTAC. It's kind of weird. I was just talking to you met Bobby today, but we were just kind of shooting the shit because we're both JTACs about it. And the way school seats kind of work is like you have your scheduled slated school seats to go to all these sections of school, sniper, dive, all that stuff, right? Like you get an allocation for the battalion.
Real
But
quick
then
before
there's
you go
hot,
too far, bro. So for the people that don't know, can you just describe what a JTAC is?
yes. So joint terminal attack controller. The best way to describe it is the guy on the ground painting the picture for the people in the planes. You got to deconflict. You have to do what's called stacking aircraft, so managing multiple different sections of aircraft, different types of aircraft. You need to understand the civilian sector we call like airspace restrictions and types of air, but you have to like understand the three-dimensional, four-dimensional geometry of the sky relative to what's going on the ground. You give them attack headings or cones to go in, and then you kind of advise on what munitions to deliver. At the end of the day, what they bring to the fight and what the pilot, you got to defer to some of the pilots because they know a lot better. But you may be working with foreign air, different branches of service, aircrafts. You may just be using like intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, right? Some kind of, gain more situational awareness on the battlefield. It depends. You might be controlling a medevac or doing marshaling operations. They have different it's a joint billet, it's a joint MOS across the branches of service. The Air Force probably does it the best because that's their job. The Marine Corps, it's a ancillary billet or like a
Yep.
secondary billet. I think Anglico probably produces some of the best JTACs in the military. I worked with a lot of those guys, and I just was in awe of how well they were trained on it. Pilots will do billets as JTACs or FACs. So it's deconfliction. It's making sure the guys on the ground are safe and you deliver the right munitions and understand the safety distances and danger close and everything like that. And then all your indirect fires, you should be a JTAC can make JFOs, or at least they used to be able to. Um, there's a lot more to it. At the end of the day, like it was just a job that I had in the military that like made my brain work the hardest I think it ever had to work. Um, and I was a sergeant when I became a JTAC, and they used to like snipe sergeants out of that course. Like they did
Oh, I'm
not
sure.
like making sergeants
I'm sure.
JTACs. I got into the course because a SEAL failed, and I was like standing outside the door ready to take the test.
Oh, wow.
So did that. I don't remember why I jumped on that, but for drones, the drone conversation. So I'm
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
believer in the UAS component of it, and there's a lot of different types of UAS components. I'm terrified for the first drone strike to hit the US. I mean, it's kind of amazed that it hasn't happened
Seriously.
yet, but
Yeah.
I guess props to the people, the NORAD guys, and everybody monitoring all the airspace, all the different agencies, and everything. I'm a drone pilot in the civilian sector, although I don't really use it for anything.
There's a
Um,
lot of restrictions, dude.
it is, and it's getting ready, from what I've heard, to go into a different. There's going to be some different regulations being introduced in it. I don't know enough to like sit and be a subject matter expert on that, but I've talked to some people, and we just did a big conference out here for it. I've heard there's going to be some changes to make it so you can run multiple autonomous drones from different security operations centers and things
Oh,
like
so you're
that.
actually you're applying it for, your company in
Yeah,
active.
for
Oh, wow.
the biggest thing with
As
security
much as you
is, I mean,
can. Yeah, of
we're a systems integrator, right? Like we use everything that gains situational awareness, cameras,
course.
you know, UAS. It's just there. It has to be the right application. I could go on for days about that, but it's both fantastic and terrifying what's going on, in other countries with drones, but it
Yeah,
levels the playing field a little bit.
of course.
I think when I deployed to the Middle East briefly with First Recon, I think it was the Force Detachment at the time was what we called ourselves. Um, and we worked with different host nation special operations forces. Um, I think the fight of the future is that I think like the Marine Corps at large has a lot of special operations capabilities. We used to call it like the MUSOC and everything. I think they're starting to make grunts. You see them wearing the high cuts and having dual
Yep.
tubes. I think we're
Yep.
modernizing the force. I'm all about that. Um, I think guys, they're employing like squad level UAS from what I understand. I mean, I've seen that. I've talked to a few guys that do that. I haven't, learned exactly what they're, all the tactics and everything that go along
That's
with it, but
probably
it's kind
that's
of
that
intuitive.
probably hasn't gotten to the line
Yeah.
companies yet, bro. I'm sure that's probably just like,
I
Raiders
want to
and
say there was. Yeah. No,
yeah.
I think there's some. I think there was a couple test battalions, but
Oh,
again,
wow.
I don't know. I mean, I get in touch with the gunners out here pretty often. Um, every year for Shot Show, it's a big fucking reunion, so I
Oh
get to
yeah,
talk to those guys
for
and
sure.
hear what's going on in the Marine Corps. And I'm optimistic, man. I mean, it's a different Marine Corps. It seemed like a different Marine Corps when I was, a staff NCO and like getting ready to. I went through the medical retirement process at the end of
Did you
almost
get that
11
like
years.
kind of nostalgia though when you're getting out, like the Marine Corps isn't the same, all the wolves are getting pushed out, or are you one of the ones that are like, we're adapting with the times and we need to change and that's necessary?
I mean, I'll be honest. I said that because it was like self-serving. You know what I mean? Like in the regards, and I had seen a lot of guys retiring, but it's been what 2016. So I've been almost retired for like 8 years. It seems like yesterday sometimes, but the more retirements I went to, like my buddy's getting out. I had a buddy that was a sergeant major that recently retired after 30 years, and like you see the different chest candy that guys have on. You read the stuff in the news. You hear, the guys that are still doing it, what they're doing and what they're into. And I mean, as an American, like I'd like to see us at peace. I'd like to see us not spending a bunch of money overseas and things like that. And I won't get too deep into politics, but like I would
Oof,
like to like make our country beautiful and not fuck around with everybody
of
else's.
course,
That
I
being
agree with you
said,
completely. I
I
agree with you
still think
completely.
there's a lot of dudes that stand ready to do that. And that like when OIF and OEF hit, it was baptism by fire. The guys figured it out.
Absolutely.
They're
Absolutely.
intuitive, and I know the Marine Corps will continue to do that. Um,
Good call.
so
I
I, I
like how you
I
I
get
like
more
how you
wisdom. I get more wisdom, I suppose, as times go on, and more nuanced by it also. So
I got you. I got you. So a buddy of mine was talking with me the other day, and we were Lance Corporals together, and we're both like city kids, and we saw a lot of like I don't know. I'm comparing this to because I'm looking at just politics and who's at the very top of military leadership today, and it really looks to me like it's those guys, the buddy fuckers, the guys that no one. I don't know. I feel like the wrong people get promoted, and it's almost the wrong people stay in because either they can't survive on the outside or they just do everything that they're told and you know what I'm trying to say, and they get to a
yeah,
level
yeah,
where they're at the very top now and look at what's happening. I mean, I'm embarrassed every time I see a general talk about what's going on, and they have no. I mean, I guess they can't, but I'm even starting at the Afghan withdrawal. Like, I mean, are we at a point where if you disagree with the administration, you just get axed and they just replace you with the next yes man? Is that what we're living in today, dude? I'm trying to keep
I
this as
mean, I don't
modest
know, man.
as I can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can be candid on it too. Like, I mean, the Afghan withdrawal pissed everybody off, right? Like, that
Yeah,
was kind of our. Saigon type thing. I think that maybe made us the Vietnam veterans, like that moment.
Yeah,
I don't say made us the Vietnam veterans because
I
that's
hear you
so
though.
different in terms of things, but like, and I want to give them their respect, but like,
Of course.
I think that was when like college kids were kind of like, it's over. Get the
Yeah.
fuck. You guys are all washed up, fucking like. And I tell people, I'm like, yo, we are washed up, fucking dudes. Like, I get it. I mean, some of us are still in decent shape, but like, and I'm like, more power to the veterans that go out and fucking throw 20 inches on their waist and become stay at home dads or whatever. Like, do your thing. That's fine. Um, I I don't, man, I don't know. I still like, I really think there's still a lot of good people in there. I think
I agree.
we spend a lot of time on things like diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm not saying we shouldn't have that. I think everybody should feel included in the military. And like, the military was like probably my largest longitudinal cultural exposure to other cultures and things. You become homies with a
Absolutely.
guy. I had a real
Absolutely.
good buddy from Puerto Rican from Brooklyn. Um, that I had fucking country boys from Georgia and
Yep.
like
Yep.
dudes that were from Hawaii, like that thing too. Like you're immersed in the Hawaiian culture, right? And that, I mean, some people might say that's like another country out there. I love it. Like if I could pick one place to live, money wasn't an issue. That's where I go for
No
sure.
shit.
Um, oh yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. Money wasn't an issue though, right? It is.
Yeah,
It's expensive
exactly.
out there.
Right. Yeah.
So, um, but I loved it there, and I felt like a part of that community. Also acknowledge that I was like silly Holly and like just wanted to make it better, right? For the
Of
guys that
course.
were there and represent us well and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We could spend hours on that question. I think at the end of the day, like it's gonna be all right. You as a civilian, you wish for peace, but also like as a Marine, I'm like, give these boys a fucking war to fight,
Right.
like
Right.
that. And
And we're
for the
just Monday
Afghan
morning
thing,
quarterbacking here. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's
for
all we
sure,
can do.
for sure. I mean, the Afghanistan thing that fucking hit home. We actually have an interpreter that works for us. That was, I think, where I kind of came across you guys. I saw Danny talking about you guys' terp and stuff, and we have. It wasn't my terp. It was a terp that worked for an ODA, an Operational Detachment Alpha Green Beret crew, and by all accounts, had saved one of my buddies, who's now an LA Sheriff's Department's life. The guy's
No
name's
shit.
Habil Habibi. Yeah, he endured some pretty terrible shit to get out of there. By the grace of God and some friends at 1-8, I think it was. I want to say 1-8. Probably 2-1 was a little involved with it. We had the guy go out and hold up a sign that said "Hug me." They snatched him out of the crowd, and he got away from the Abbey Gate like right before the thing blew. I mean, I'm
Wow.
not saying it was like seconds, but like it was within probably hours to
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Damn.
got his whole family out here, and then he was like, "I'm coming to Vegas," and I was like, "Dude, don't come to fucking Vegas, bro." Like, I go to Wisconsin or something. Like, I know they got places set up for you guys. He's like, "No, I'm coming to Vegas. You said you can give me a job." I'm like, "All right, man." So I picked him up, drove him down the strip. I'm like, "Welcome to America, motherfucker." Like, so he's been cool, man. It's hard for those guys, man. They got to like getting on their feet. They don't get
Bro,
much from the
they
government. Like,
really got I
yeah,
mean, they really got screwed there. Honestly, that really put a bad taste in my mouth just for the organization because of what I remember what we told these guys, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I was there
yeah,
and they
yeah,
all thought that if they, put their shield up with us, that they were coming back or they were going to be able to get over to America. And
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like he got to start in America, but he got to start at like zero. He didn't get to bring any of his shit with him. Like, I mean, I remember he was like telling me about how he was selling his car in Afghanistan. I'm like, fuck you selling it to? Like, how's that work? Like, but
let's go into a Talib.
yeah, yeah, learned a lot from. I mean, I've learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot from that guy,
They
and
have some
just I got a
stories,
lot of
huh?
veterans that work here. Oh yeah, this dude's wild, man. He's a fucking hero. We did a little thing for him at the ball when we introduced him. Um, I mean, he's more of American to me than most Americans I meet on
That's
the
what I'm
street.
saying. Yep.
Like, I've been at a couple of naturalization ceremonies. That's some powerful stuff, man. I hope
Yeah.
to one day see him get. He's still dealing with the green card process and everything, and
You know what I love to
work
see with
visas and
guys like
stuff.
that, dude? When how proud they are. How proud they are to like be an American. And I feel like we've kind of like lost that to a certain degree. Some of these people that are knocking on America today, it's sad to see, man. I don't know what exactly it is that has changed things, but you can pin it on, phones, you can pin it on politics, but I don't know. I feel like just the pride of just being American in general has is fleeting, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I'll play devil's advocate. This is not
Please
how I
do.
feel, but I'll look at it from the other side and say, like, Vietnam, Iraq, even the end of Afghanistan, like, our track record has not been wonderful in global intervention, right?
Facts.
Like,
Yeah,
that being
you're
said,
right.
as a 19-year-old kid, like, give me a place to fight, I'll go. Like, I want the adventure. I didn't join to serve my country, man. I love my
Exactly.
country. I
I know
love
we
where I
all,
grew up. I got a lot of pride in that place. I feel like so much pride that I feel guilty for living not where I was born to a regard. And you can probably appreciate that being from
of course,
Boston,
of
living
course,
in Boston.
of course.
I got a few Beantown buddies I came up with that it's just a different breed, man. But being from Detroit, like I'm fifth generation Detroit on my mother's side of the family,
No shit.
and everybody worked in the auto industry. Um, yeah, and it was weird, but being out here during the pandemic and watching the strip shut down, I was like, this reminds me of the first time my first enlistment when I finished, and I was going to go back to Detroit in 2008. And I went home on leave, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm staying in the Marine Corps." Like, not a fucking
Just getting you
question in my
straight.
mind. Sign me up for Afghanistan. Like, okay, next deployment, let's do this. Yeah, just the real world scared me to get out. But
Of course.
there was a certain part in my Marine Corps career where I was losing more buddies out of service than I
I know,
was in
dude.
combat.
Preach, preach.
And that compelled me to like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go, I entertained, like I pursued a few jobs, worked a bunch of tech startup internships and stuff, and was doing, that freelance executive protection stuff in LA and kind of cutting my teeth down there. And um, pulled up with a couple dudes I respected a lot out of the Marine Corps. Some of them were still in. We had a lot of contacts and network, and it was a guy named Chris Sitt was a EOD tech for the Raiders. A guy named Brian Jacklin, who I will put him on blast. He's a Navy Cross recipient. He's a guy that like I looked up to tremendous. Now he's my bro. Like it's different now. I still look up to him in a way, but like I feel more of like a colleague or a peer. And then Steve Kruger, who was one of the Det One like founding guys that started Marsoc, and
Oh wow.
I looked up to those guys. Brian Buckley was a captain. He started Helmet Valley Growers Company. I hope I got that right, Brian. Um, but I looked up to those guys. I'm like, yeah, we can start a company. Like we can figure it out. These guys did all this stuff. Like I got a little bit of a brain on me. I know some business stuff. Like had a fresh business diploma from Hawaii Pacific University. I was like, let's fucking take on the world. Let's hire a bunch of vets and figure out everything else. Almost 8 years later, I'm like, that's fucking harder than I thought. Like we've had a lot of success.
Are you happy
Fucking
though?
creating,
Are you happy you jumped in and did it?
yeah, without a doubt. Like I'm happy I guess like for different reasons. Like some people would think like success is like being a millionaire. Like I think on paper, I've been a millionaire a few times. I've been broke a few times throughout the course of this whole ordeal. I don't really keep score like that, but I'm starting to keep score more like that because that's kind of how the business world keeps score. Like, what's the company's bottom line? Before I was like, are we hiring enough people? Are we getting enough jobs? Are we paying the bills? That was kind of running a business for the first few years while you figure it out. And once you kind of get that underneath you, like, all right, now I got to optimize this thing. I got to find a way for, I don't have shareholders per se. I'm not a publicly traded company, but you got to improve shareholder value. I got partners. Those guys I mentioned are all my business partners. We've all kind of gone off and done like different things, and I've stuck on and run it. And I got a couple of them still here. Um, but it's a different beast, man. Like we lost a veteran last week. Guy committed suicide last week, and
What what do
it
you
gave me pause to reflect.
what do you think that is, man? When we talk about like veteran suicide, I mean, do you think it's really just the, inclusion of all your buddies being around you all the time and having that support? Or do you think it's just getting out and not and being successful in the middle? A lot of because some of the people that are killing themselves in my circle, bro, were extremely successful in the military. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then they get
Well, you
out
got
and
a
they
lot of
just don't have
entrepreneurs.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of entrepreneurs that kill themselves too. It's a high risk profession. So I mean, I have my personal thoughts. My wife is a VA therapist, so this is kind
Oh
of near and
wow.
dear. It's obviously near and dear because of our community, but my wife had a passion for that, and got a real fancy degree, and I think she's a pretty good therapist. I'm obviously biased, but by all metrics, she seems to do pretty well. She deals with some of the high risk populations of substance abuse and everything to that effect. And
Does she like the VA? Does she feel like the VA gives her like, yeah, I think, yeah, okay. Well, we can leave that
I'll
there, but yeah,
well look, let's like my own opinion of the VA. I think they provide a lot of good resources. I think it's hard to navigate. I think they have a hard time navigating because you and I both know there's all kinds of shit out there where it's like, hey, get your 100%. You know, that's great. I mean, people should get what they deserve and they should get disability and take advantage of the benefits and stuff like that. But I mean, it's not zero people out there just faking the funk so they can get paid. I don't know how many people it is. I don't really care.
it's
And
a
the
real
VA's
thing.
got that. They have to deal with that. They have to deal with that. I mean, my wife's had cases where, um, she wonders if they're telling the truth behind it. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm
there's only
happy
so
she can
much
at
she can
least
bounce
see
off
that,
me.
dude. Because I mean, I've been in multiple VA groups, and that's honestly that's my like discord with the VA. I've tried doing the programs, dude, for the PTSD stuff and sitting in the groups. And my big thing is I see these people that are in these groups with me, and I know they're
Yeah.
either telling someone else's story, they're not being truthful. And that's when I'm in a
Yeah.
group of people that I know are doing that, I can't I pull out. I feel like it's bullshit. It's cap. Like, and I'm happy that at
Yeah.
least. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I'm a huge proponent of therapy, right? To some regard. It does not have to be going to I called it the wizard, right? My whole career.
Of
I'm like,
course.
all right, I gotta go see the fucking wizard, right? Like, and when I was laying in the hospital bed in Bethesda, they bring a bunch of psychiatrists into you and they're just talking to you, asking you about what happened. And like, I'm like, fuck it, man. Think what happened. I'm like, hold on, press a Dilaudid pump. Like, all right, cool. Let's have a
Tell you
conversation
all
about
about
this,
it.
right? Well, I mean, shit, I'll say whatever I want on Dilaudid. Like, and my like, and then I've learned more about this. Like, I helped my wife study through her programs and stuff. And I don't take any credit for what she did, but like, I read a lot of the books. I read the DSM. I got involved with it from a sense of like, all right, I'm going to go through what the VA offers and what the DoD offers. So I went to psychologists, psychiatrists. I even did there was one point where, cause it's probably better if I back up and kind of say like the injuries I had, right? So skull was broken open. I had fucking shit like lesions or something. I don't know what they're called. I'm not using the proper medical terms, but I had spots on my brain where I had a pretty obvious traumatic brain injury. Um, I had a reconstructed elbow. I probably fucking broke my back. I definitely broke my back later, like fractured some discs and stuff and had some herniated discs, knees, all that shit. But they focus on triage, right? Like your eye ain't fucking working. Let's figure out the eye. I went to all the cognitive testing and they're like, you seem to be good. I'm like, but where was I at before? Because I don't feel good. Like I had a hard time reading. Um, and I was an ADD kid too. So like I probably had a hard time reading before, but like it was just different, right? So I had to learn how to like balance and things like that. And my dumbass was like one-eyed riding a motorcycle and like doing all kinds of hood rat shit myself. But I kind of like worked through those injuries and took the help they had. I was frustrated through the whole process. Don't get me
Of
wrong. I
course.
mean, changing
It's not
appointments,
easy.
stuff like that. When I got out into the veteran side, because I was retired off active duty, and retired with disability, I went on to the temporary disabled retire list, and they kind of take care of everything for you. Like you go straight into the VA system, you're checked in before you even get off active duty. And I went to the VA, and I remember talking. I don't even remember who it was, but I was talking to somebody, and I said like she was pissing me off. God, I don't like. I really don't even remember why I was pissed off, but I was pissed off about something. It might not have even been her, but I just remember going like, "You are the reason 22 people kill themselves every day,"
Oof.
and I was like, "I hope that stings." Fuck you. Like walked out,
Oof.
and I was like,
Oof.
"This is before my wife worked for the VA," and I went home and told her about it, and she's like, "You can't say that shit to people." I'm like, "Ah, fuck him, whatever," like terrible thing to say. Now that I like walk back on it, and that obviously wasn't her being the reason. Um, but that was probably like the peak frustration I felt from it. And I tried doing they would put you on meds. I tried Cymbalta for 40 days. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's a SSRI.
Yep. Well, Butrin.
And yeah, and I was very opposed to going on an antidepressant. And
I don't blame you.
they had me on Adderall or Vyvanse. They had me on a
Yep.
stimulant. They wanted to like put me on a stimulant and an antidepressant. And my wife was like, hey, try it for 40 days, take journals, talk to me about what it's doing. If you don't like it, come off it after 40 days. And then at least you know. And then they were doing brain scans on me like pretty frequently. So like the stimulants were actually kind of clearing up some of the gray spots in my brain. Or at least that's what they told me. And then I went on the Cymbalta and like Call of Duty had just dropped. I played Call of Duty for like a month straight. I did not give a shit about anything. My wife's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Fucking great. This is awesome." Like I've just been fucking racking up fucking kills, getting my ass kicked by like 12-year-olds and stuff. Like I didn't care to argue with anybody on the thing. But like she was pregnant at the time, I recall, and she's like, "This shit ain't gonna work." Like you were a productive like go getter before, and now you're like, about to start a Twitch stream. Like you gotta fucking chill out. I don't think Twitch was a thing back in the day, but like she's like, you gotta go get this reassessed, and I did. I went through that, got that reassessed. Stayed with a therapist, and I remember that therapist like PCS'd or they moved to another duty station. And I was like, "What the fuck am I supposed to do now?" Like I was just
Yeah,
with a good
seriously.
therapist. I got to start all over. But then I got to the point where like I'd walk into a therapist and be like, "All right, here's my psychosocial history." Like I went into a civilian therapist out in Vegas. I went to a civilian therapist out in Vegas, and I told her my psychosocial history, and she started crying. And I was like, "Why are you crying?" And she's like,
It doesn't make you
"That's
feel too
just
good.
some of that's so sad." And like, you've been through a lot. And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I didn't even tell you about. I've had like 20 surgeries." Like, and I'm like, "Look, have you ever worked with veterans, combat veterans, post traumatic stress, TBI?" She's like, "No, but somebody in my office have." I'm like, "Well, give me that guy," because like, all due respect, like this ain't gonna work out. I don't want to
Yeah,
be a guinea pig here.
yeah, exactly.
Um, and then I pulled out of kind of the traditional care system, and I got with a like a non-standard kind of, I don't want to call it a life coach because that kind of downplays it. She has like certificates and degrees and stuff, but Randy Couture's foundation set me up with somebody, and I did
Really?
therapy with them for about 2 years. It was just a phone call, telehelp stuff, and it was more like executive coaching. Because I told her, I was like, "Look, like I've dived into all the childhood trauma. I've dived into the combat trauma. I talk about my friend. My friends don't stop dying. Like I'm just getting better at dealing with it. Um, and I try and do things to stop it, but like, you're focusing on zone A, zone B starts fucking going to shit, like,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm not self-absorbed anymore to where I think I can really stop that. Um, some of the common denominators I've seen is like alcohol use, man. I
Of
fucking,
course.
you know, fucking Mackie Hall, man. That was like Mackie Hall taught me how to drink. I mean, I thought I knew how to drink in high school and stuff in Detroit, but like Mackie
Shit.
Hall taught me that.
On another level.
It took me, yeah, it took me a few years to like drink like an adult. Um, and even then, I would like binge drink at the ball and stuff. Actually, recently in November, I stopped drinking entirely. I feel pretty good about it. I don't know if I'd call it being sober, but like I'm just gonna stop drinking for a little while, see how it goes. I wasn't drinking every day. I maybe drink like once every few months, but I see that being a common denominator in guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think drug use, I don't want to just lump every drug use, but there's certain drugs that like shoot your serotonin up and then drop it, afterwards you got that come down. I imagine those are pretty low lows. Like I did a ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So I
Same
went
here.
into a psychiatrist, shot me to the fucking middle of the universe, and had me talk to God for a little while. That was a lot to
I wasn't
process.
ready for how
No,
like I thought it was like I've done
no,
shrooms, you know what I'm saying? But like I thought it was gonna be
yeah,
like something, bro, I went somewhere else. I don't know where it
yeah.
was, but I can't even describe it to you. Like I couldn't.
So, so the best description I can add, it was kind of a life changing thing, and I think they wanted me to do it like a few sessions. I was like, yeah, I'm game, like I'm up for it,
I'm game.
and after one session, I was like, I'm gonna need a minute before I
Yeah,
schedule my next appointment with
seriously.
this. And I thought about it for like I'd say I definitely thought hard about it for like a month. And like, I remember you're not in your body. You're just like a
No,
fucking space being or
no,
something. You're not like an
yeah.
alien. You're just like an orb is what I kind of felt like. And I remember feeling like all the good and the bad from all my ancestors, like all the males in my family flowing through me into my son.
Damn,
And I was like,
that's
damn, that is fucking
trippy,
powerful.
dude.
Right. Yeah. So that tripped me out. And I still think about it. Like it still chokes me up to think
Yeah,
about that. But
same
I was
here.
like,
Same here.
all right, so like I'm giving him the good and the bad. Like whatever he sees is what he gets, like stuff he doesn't see is what he's gonna get too. And that just made me kind of like recalculate how I did things. And maybe that was like the moment where if people say like I live for my kids. Yeah, all right, like I've heard people say that shit and they ain't seen their kids in years. Like, all right, cool,
Yeah.
that's great. So that's like the thing in prison everybody says.
Yeah, no shit.
Um, but no, I mean, you start getting more involved as a dad, and like he's at a fun age right now where like it's football practice and stuff. So like
That's dope.
my life changed like dramatically with all that stuff. It's
Of course.
I don't know, man. I have a purpose, right? Like I have several purposes. My job, the people at my job, the clients and
I think that's a
stakeholders
big
that I
deal, dude.
serve.
Purpose is a huge deal.
Yeah, yeah. Simultaneously, I've seen people with like too much purpose get stressed out and fucking end it. Like it's
Yeah.
it's
No, you're
weird.
right. You're right. Yeah. Kind
Yeah,
of
it's
overload.
I've seen people that were super successful do it. Like in the industry, and it's
It's weird
interesting.
because
I don't
that's
think
what they
you.
wanted. They wanted that almost, but I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
it's weird.
I don't think we can solve like a calculus problem with algebra on this ever. And I think that's like, you bang out as
Well
many
put.
push-ups as you want a day, you call your buddy. I think we should call each other and stuff. Like
I agree.
there's some
I
people
agree.
that like I've distance from though. And that have distance from me, not because we had a falling out or anything, but because I look back on it and the work I've done, like we had shared trauma together, and I'm probably a trigger to that person. And they're successful, and I wish them the best in life, and I miss talking to them, but I'll also give them their space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I hope I hear from them someday. Like, but it's okay. I'm not mad at him for it.
No, I hear
Dudes are
you.
kind of okay with that usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems that they are. Also, it's a hard world, man. You're getting fucking, I call it unconventional warfare, but you're getting like all kinds of shit pushed down your throat. The fucking doom scrolling thing. I told
I
you
don't
I
know.
was
Do you,
talking to you
do
on Instagram, and I was like, I'm gonna take a break from this shit for the next week.
Yeah, I don't blame you, dude.
I need
It's a
to.
real thing, dude. I mean, you're still part of the era that you remember when there wasn't phones, correct?
Yeah, I miss it. I miss it.
It
I
was
like being
different, dude.
connected.
It really was
Yeah.
different. And I don't know if it has to do with conversation, if you know that was actually like a shared energy thing. Because think about it, man. When you don't have this to scroll and just
Yep.
completely take your mind off thing, you're completely locked in with. I don't know. It definitely felt different, dude. It really did, and I do miss it. I really do. I felt like it
Yeah,
was
because
like
like I grew up in the era of like you go play in the woods all day. You play
that's
street
exactly what
hockey,
I'm
or you
talking
play
about.
baseball, or you,
Yeah,
you, you ride your bike. And my son had a sleepover the other night with his buddy, and he was grounded from his tablet because I do that frequently. I'm like, sometimes you don't even get your
smart.
tablet, you're not in trouble, you just can't have it. And his buddy had his tablet. I'm like, well, I can't ground him. And he's like, it's not fair, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, tough shit. Dude, life's not fair. I was like, let's go do something
Life stuff.
besides
Yeah,
playing on
exactly.
tablets. Like you nerds are here to spend time with each other, not play games like virtually across the room.
Yeah, exactly.
And took them out like exploring the desert, jumped in the razor, and just went and ripped some fucking sand for a while. And like they
That's
got huge
dope.
smiles on their face. I'm like, see, there's other
Yeah,
stuff to
you
do.
can do
You
things.
know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. But I mean, there's just a lot of stuff coming out of that phone at people, like, and
Well,
it's brilliant and it's awesome that the wealth of the world's knowledge is at our fingertips in one side, but we're looking
scary
at fucking
too.
cat videos, like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Human beings are
it's
fucked
wild.
up, dude. I agree.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all we do is
Yeah.
exchange memes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, at the same time, like I cherish some of the like, you know, the group chats I have with my buddies where we're
Of
sharing
course.
inappropriate shit with each other.
Of
That's
course.
fun. It's a good way to
Of
connect.
course. Yeah.
Everything in moderation, though, man. Everything in moderation. I just think it's a weird world we're living in, and some guys, I don't want to say they can't handle it, but it's important to remember that, like, I think Joe Rogan said, like, the worst thing you've ever been through is the worst thing you've ever been through. I used to say, like, yeah, everybody has a different threshold. Everybody has a different threshold for pain and trauma. Marines are pretty good at stacking that shit up most of the
Yeah.
time. Um, maybe they separate from some kind of bond that they have. Sometimes it's a marital thing. Um, I mean, I hope people reach out for help. And sometimes I've seen a lot of them where like, I would have told you it was one of the happiest guys in the world, and all of a sudden next day he's gone.
Yeah.
Those are like some of the toughest ones. The proximity to you is also kind of hard. Um, I don't even think suicide's the only thing too, like overdoses, reckless life decisions. I got buddies in prison, I don't really keep in touch with
Same.
them anymore now they're in
Same.
prison, but like,
No,
you see that
I hear
type of
you.
stuff where it just takes them down a path and they end up there, and they lost their purpose along the way. And
Yeah.
lost some honor along the way. And I think the
Yeah.
honor thing kind of,
Yeah.
everybody has a different definition of what honor means. Some guys
Well,
lose
when
that. And
someone's cognizant enough to know they lost their honor, then shame comes in, and shame will
yeah,
eat somebody alive. You know what I mean? I've seen it happen
yep.
multiple times. Uh, but yeah, I hear
I
you,
think
man.
there's resources out there. I think the mental health thing, I think it's abundant, but I think you have to wade through like a mile of shit to find something that works well for you.
it
Um,
it takes
you
it
know, I,
takes you having to apply yourself and work after it. You're not just going to walk into a therapist and they're going to be the perfect therapist. You have to find the perfect one, honestly, because that's a
yeah,
big thing I stand on, man. I've done the therapy fucking back and forth with a few of them. You know what I'm saying? I've
yep.
been to a few groups, and
Groups are hard, man. I
I
don't
know,
know. My group is like sitting around the office talking with the boys. Like
yeah,
that's like my group. I choose who's in my group in a way. I don't think there's anything replaceable for that. Well, I guess sometimes like my wife runs groups and I have her sitting around with my buddies and it's probably pretty close to it. Um, it's hard when there's guys just
not
bullshitting in
at the
there, but I,
yeah, 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 yeah. That's
but
what I was
but
trying to
you're
say
not there for
before.
them though, You're not there for them. You're there for you. Like let them fucking tell their. I mean, I've had employees where like they're like, yeah, it was special forces. I'm like, what group are you in? They're like airborne. I'm like, oh yeah. What? And
Oh,
then I'm gonna need that. And I go back to the personnel file. I'm like, D214. I'm like, dude, if you're a cook, say you're a cook, bro. Thank you for being a cook. But
live in
like,
it. Yeah, just
don't
yes.
don't represent yourself. Well, now because they're representing themselves as a part of my company. I mean, that's a conversation I've had a few times, unfortunately. Usually went well. I'm not gonna go up to them and be like, hey, motherfucker. Like, it's not that space anymore. But
No, no, no.
um, I feel their pain though. I think there's guys that are machine gunners that did 4 years and did Muse, and they probably look at us like you guys are the luckiest motherfuckers in the world.
Yeah,
You know,
I
and
would
I
hate.
I, I went out to go ahead. Sorry.
I would hate that. Like the group of Marines like that are hooking and jabbing right now. There's, I mean, they've been in 4 to 6 years and they haven't had a. That would drive me nuts training all the time and never getting to just prove myself. So I can feel that. That would
Yeah.
eat me alive.
Well, it depends on what guys join for. Like I think staying true to that purpose. Like I did some interviews with like young. I think they were like Lance Corporals and PFCs when they came in when I was a staff NCO. And I'm like, hey, let's talk about your career roadmap. What do you want to accomplish while you're in the Marine Corps? Where do you want to go? How long do you see yourself being in? And they were like, well, I mean, like I plan on going to college after this and like doing a data science degree. I'm like, yo, all right, hold on. I had to like check myself for a second and be like, this is not a conversation I would have had in GWAT. Like it would have been like, what are you going to do for me today, tomorrow, and next month? I don't give a fuck what you're doing in 4 years. When you get out, that's your time, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
there's a little more different approach. I appreciate those guys that have their life kind of figured out. I, dude, I was gonna probably go to jail if I didn't join the Marine Corps. I mean, I had been to jail a few times. I was probably
Yep,
gonna go to
same here.
prison, and like I just I think it was 48 hours in the DEP program or something like that, and then I was on a reserve contract, and I was like, no, make me active duty. Like, let's have an adventure. Like that was my whole like thesis on coming in the Marine Corps was like, it's gonna be fun. I mean, I don't know shit about it, but it's gonna be fun. Um, went
I'm
and
just
checked in
saying,
with a
dude,
bunch
my
of
best
Fallujah
time, the
vets.
best illusion. That's cool. Shit, you guys are psycho. Um, no,
Yeah.
but dude, honestly, think about it. My deployments was the best time of my life, and I mean, maybe that makes me a fucking loser or what, but I mean, the experiences that I've had with some of the best friends to me, I couldn't imagine not having them. Like, and
For sure.
there is something that goes with. Think about it, dude. All we do is train to do the damn thing. When you actually get the
Mhm.
opportunity to prove yourself, it's a feeling, and you know when you do. It's a feeling inside you get that you can't replace. Like when you get that first motherfucking kill and you
Yeah.
know you did the damn thing properly, you're like, God damn, that's what this is. That's what all those boys were talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. And like, I mean, as a boot going to Haklania, we got a little kinetic. It wasn't like we weren't in firefights every day. We got our fair share of firefights. Like we all came back with our cars and seen a little shit here, smoked a few dudes. Had a couple fucking moments that scared the shit out of you for a little bit, but like
Yeah,
and then it kind of like then you kind of like don't jump at the sound of gunfire anymore. You're just like, all
I
right,
know.
dude, where's that
It's
coming
just
from?
another thing.
Like
Yeah.
that type of thing. And then when we went to Karma, that fucking sucked, man. I fired my rifle one time on that deployment in
Oh, it was a
anger, other
dead
than
one.
like doing a
That
rifle
sucks.
qual. Well, we had a guy get killed. TJ Riley got killed um, a few days before Christmas, and we were kind of like on the swing of going home,
Oh, okay.
and he got killed by like just a fucking random RKG 3, like a tank grenade that went through the back of a Humvee, and it just
Oh,
shook everybody. Like we were like, "Fuck, are we complacent? Like,
oh,
how the fuck does that happen?" You know? And and then Marja was next, and Marja was everything I fucking joined the Marine Corps to do. I mean, we were
was it?
hauling fucking toes around with donkeys. I was a 0311 squad leader. I ended up being kind of a platoon sergeant. My platoon sergeant wasn't there for a while, and but I had the reign to. I had a machine gun attachment. I had a mortar. Mortars usually were back at the CP, but and I had an assault attachment, and so
That's a
my
lot.
machine gunners carried a 50 cal. My saw gunners carried 240s, and they were employing the 50 cal on foot. Like it was fucking glory days, baby. Like I loved it.
Damn.
So up until getting blown up, like that was it was all cool until that part. And then I was like, fuck, I'm home and they're all there now. Like, I gotta,
That bothered you, I
you're in
bet.
a hospital bed, like
Yeah.
fucking,
Yep.
oh, dude, probably darkest fucking days of my life.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
darkest days of my life. And then,
Yeah. Daughter
well, it
stinks.
was some of them.
Yeah.
I,
I mean,
in 2014, when I was getting ready to go on the 11th MEU, I lost my brother-in-law who was with me in
oh
1-3,
fuck.
and
Sorry.
we deployed. He had a heroin overdose, and
Oh shit.
it actually I probably don't these days, knowing what I know now, I would call it like a fentanyl issue,
Yeah.
because back then like it wasn't a common phrase.
Yeah.
Um, but that shook me fucking. I actually had to like tap out of a fucking training exercise for a few days and take a few days off, and had to help with the
Damn.
funeral and stuff, and fly back to. He was from a town away. He was from Toledo, and I was from Detroit, so real close. Our families
Sucks.
all knew each other, and yeah, it was terrible. It
Of
sucked, man.
course. Of
I
course.
fucking I've accomplished a lot of things in my life, just like channeling the fucking anger and the pain and shit from that. Because that dude was a giant of man. Like that
Really.
dude could go crush a cheeseburger and get another inch on his bicep. Like it seemed like everything came easy to him. He was a sergeant like 2.5 years. Like,
Damn.
um, but like we did everything together. Like it was we were all tight as fucking thieves. And so it changed a lot of things for me. You know, it changed how I looked at things, kind of reshifted my purpose around, kind of like fucking I told you about that ketamine
Do,
trip, man. Like it just change how it did things.
do you
Uh,
believe in God?
yeah, I'm a I often say like I'm a recovering Catholic. I was born Catholic, went to Catholic school,
I did too.
all
I
my
did too.
sacraments. I got divorced and I felt like I was kind of like excommunicated from the church. I practiced marriage. I've since been
Practice
married for like
marriage.
13 years. Yeah. I've been married for 13 years this go around. And I find myself as I get older, deployments probably like, I don't want to say it like separated me from God, but like
Of course they did.
I think I was like, man, God got me through a lot of that shit. But also, I saw the downfall of religion, right? Like everybody fanatically fighting for their religion.
That's what I'm
So that
talking
kind of
about.
like
Put it in a
made me
different
feel
perspective for you.
disconnected from
Yeah.
churches. Yeah, yeah, it did. And then I went back to church in the States, and I felt like I was gonna burst into flames and shit. And
It's so
and
real.
I and I had my own I had my own kind of way of dealing with it. And then I had kids, and I was like, all right, like how do I want to raise these kids, right? I was like, I don't know if I kind of, I mean, I'll say it outright. Like, I don't feel great about the Catholic Church
Of
anymore.
course.
I
Of
still feel
course.
very good about being a Christian. I believe in science. So, like, I'd probably get in an argument with somebody about Noah's Ark and stuff.
Dude,
Like, but
that's
like,
where I'm at. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, dude, I don't blame you. Like, but I do believe there's a God, and I believe that, like, he's connected with what everybody else's vision of God is. And I mean, I don't know if it's when I took ketamine and went and talked to him, if that's what God is like. And we just have our own interpretation of it.
Of
I got a
course.
lot of questions about that shit, but
Me too.
I mean, just
Me
try and
too.
be a good person, man. At the end
I
of the
think
day,
that's
there's the
really what it
golden
all
rule,
comes
you know.
down to,
And
dude. Honestly,
yeah,
put out good vibes, and somehow it'll come back to you. You know what I mean?
I taught my kid about like a lot of different religions, and I don't want to say I'm doing like choose your own adventure on that thing, but like, I don't know, man. I think I'm probably gonna get him baptized here pretty soon. I got another nephew that's getting baptized. I think we're just gonna do a little group thing, and we'll see where
I
it goes
can't,
from
dude.
there.
I can't imagine
I've
having a kid nowadays, dude. You must get like just.
two. I got two kids.
Oh man, I mean, a
It's
buddy of
wild.
mine
It's
says
fun.
the schools are wilding with what they're telling you, you know, the kids need to have, or they'll be put on meds. Like,
We haven't had that experience, man. We've
no,
had COVID was tough, and we were fortunate to be in a position where we hired like a full-time tutor for our kid.
okay,
But when we got back from COVID, it showed that a lot of these kids didn't really have, they probably were like left in a room with a TV or something.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and and that kind of scared me a little bit. And my son, he deals with stuff at school. We live on the southwest side of Las Vegas, and the school he goes to, like, it's it's a different cultural mixture than what I grew up with. I mean, I didn't go to like an all white school or anything like that. Like I had people from like all different races. I had a heavy Chaldean population, a lot of black kids, a lot of Hispanic, not as many Hispanic kids in Michigan, but definitely out here. There's like my kid as his buddy. He'll come home and be like, "Dad, my friends told me to stop being so white. What does that mean?" I'm like, "Dude, this is a tough conversation that I don't know that you're ready for, but you cannot say anything back to them.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's like the consequences of you making a comment about their race versus them making a
Makes no
comment about
fucking
your race.
sense.
Like it's not really a conversation
It's
you
hard
should
to be
get
a
into.
white dude right now, bro.
I don't know, man. I heard it's frat boy summer though. Like I heard we're making a comeback.
Coming back around.
uh, oh, I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know. I lived before I went in the Marine Corps. I lived in Jamaica for a little while, so like I get what it's like to kind of be the minority a little bit, and I get the concept of privilege. I get how people feel. I don't say I agree with it per se. I don't feel like I've been super privileged in every aspect of my life. Um, I feel like I've, kind of come from something, but I know my parents worked hard to like get me some opportunities and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
It's just, it's just weird, man. Everybody wants to prioritize being a victim now to some regards.
That's exactly what it is,
That
man. I'm
gives you
sorry.
some clout to use like one of those terms. Um,
It's
that
sick
kind of
once you
scares
really
me.
see it, dude. Yeah, because it's becoming a worldwide thing, and and I'm not saying that there's
Yeah.
no, you know, instances where there is like some form of racism, but from what I've been
Oh,
seeing,
there's for
man,
sure racism, dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm not saying that there isn't, but there is a lot of people that are just trying to be that victim and trying to get, some clout off it and to eventually get a check. And I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
it's getting
I mean,
worse
there's
and
all
worse.
kinds of protected classes to jump into, and then we like create more protected classes. And like at the end of the day, is everybody gonna be protected? Like who's gonna protect them?
Yeah, no,
It just doesn't
seriously.
really seem to work that way.
Yeah.
um I don't know, man. Like some people don't get a fair shake in life, and
No, I agree
I
that
wish the best for
completely.
them. It's that motivates them, and I try and just take everything on a case by case scenario that I look at. um but fuck, man, I love our team at my company. And at the same token, like I've never heard so many grandma. Like I've had people that like their grandmas died 3 times, or they're like, my car's broken down, I can't make it to work. I'm like, what happened? Like I got a flat tire. I'm like, well, how's not having a day pay gonna help your tire not be flat?
Yeah,
Like
seriously.
this seems to be counterintuitive a little bit. Um, but I also realized they were raised in a different time, and some of them. I mean, there's like I don't want to pin this on like any different like demographic, but like there's not a lot of two-parent households anymore. And
Facts.
I
Facts.
had kind of a quasi two-parent household, and some people don't have a father figure. I mean, I've met grown adults that like it was very obvious that they didn't have a father figure. I don't consider myself their father figure, but like you sit down and have a conversation with somebody, like, man, nobody ever kind of taught you these things, like, let me find you a mentor. Let me see if we can kind of make some of these things a little bit better. Like, somebody teach you how to change a tire, or at least go get a fucking oil change, or when you should. And not to have so many car analogies, but I am from Detroit. So,
What's the goal for you, man? Where are you going to bring the company? Where do you see it in like
um,
5 years? You know what I mean?
yeah, that's a good question, man. I I've had to in my life have like parallel, I don't say parallel, but I've had to have like different paths of goals, contingency plans, type things like that. I'm bullish on the security market. I don't root for bad things to happen, but like I just see more and more bad things happening. My kind of vision for the next 5 years is integrating more technologies. There's a lot of exciting stuff out there, and I think if done well, um, and the costs go down on technology year over year. That's just kind of how it
Hopefully,
works. I think I have a vision where like a security guard at the very basic level is a first responder to some regard, right? Like I try and take the things that like the Marine Corps gave to me or the military gives to guys
of course,
or an EMT program, not perfectly, but we try and take those and like take the horse to the water. If the horse
of
doesn't want the
course.
water, we jam his head in and try and get him to drink some of that stuff. I'm like, hey man, one day you're going to see something bad happen, and this is what needs to happen. And you start to
Yeah.
teach people that and gain some situational awareness in them, and you see them, starting to improve and move up the corporate ladder or the security ladder. And I'm also very frank that like, you know, this is not a career for everybody. Like this is kind of a stepping stone to the next thing most times, especially for veterans. I'm like, yo, if you want to get out and go make a fucking $1 million, like you're going to be competing with me in a few years, or like do this, do the next thing, go to school, go get a trade. I look at this
Yep.
as kind of a skilled trade.
Of
I think it
course.
should be. I think people should consider it that. I've performed security services at the higher levels, the executive protection, celebrities, fucking all that jazz. Um, I enjoy that, but I think from a company standpoint, like I want to build that stuff out. I want to kind of like get rid of the people, the companies and the people in the market that are just getting paid to show up and have their heartbeat there. Like I think there should be, I
You've
think
noticed
for the
that.
customer standpoint, they should
Yeah.
be educated. Oh yeah. Yeah, how can you not, man?
Yeah.
It's the Paul Blart, the mall cop. Like
Yeah.
actually,
Yep.
people shit on Paul Blart, but he was a hardworking dude, like, but
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 yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
but I want to see like some kind of standards. I mean, we have our own internal company standards, but our clients don't know what our internal
Of
standards are
course.
relative to our competition.
Yep.
Or even people that don't compete with us, just somebody else that goes and knocks on the door and says, "Hey, we sell security," So,
Yep.
um, I think the costs need to go down for people because the psychology of spending in the security market is like something bad happens, we need more security. Oh, it's been good. It's been good. We shouldn't spend as much money. Oh, something bad happens again. We need more security, right? Like that's kind of how customer behavior trends over time. And I
If I were
think
a
they're,
client, what sets your company aside from like maybe like a Garda World or one of the bigger guys? Why would I go with you? What differentiates that?
I mean, it starts with this experience at the top, and that becomes symbiotic throughout the organization, right? Different companies have different philosophies on how they do things. We don't prefer to be like treated as law enforcement or try and be law enforcement. We can aid and support law enforcement with like good reporting. There's times where we're out with guns doing the Lord's work, and that's a thing too. But that's a different level of training. We have layers of experience from special operations veterans at our company to former law enforcement to guys that came to our company with 3 years of experience somewhere else at the very entry level. We train in house, so that's kind of important. I mean, we definitely encourage outside training as well, but like a lot of our training is done in house so that we have kind of closed loop visibility on
Yep.
where people are at.
Smart.
Many of the states, people don't know this, like to carry a firearm, you got to go call at a different company. You may shoot, like how many guys you want in your machine gun squad that run like a 185 PFT. I don't know if that's whatever the minimum is. I don't remember what it is, right? But like you ain't gonna last in a machine gun squad for a while.
Facts.
But in the security industry, like you can go out and get this binary pass fail on your qual and then come back to a company and they're like, oh, they're good. They meet state standards. State
Really?
standards are the bare minimum. Yeah. That's
Is
multiple
Vegas open
states.
carry?
You can open carry in Vegas. Like in terms of constitutional, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's not necessarily you can open carry, obviously, if you're not a felon or something to that effect. Not a lot of people do. There's a lot of concealed carry. And then obviously like the private enforcement of firearms regulations, if you will, because they're not laws. Casinos, you don't carry firearms in casinos for the most part. Things to that effect. So, but a lot of people have guns in Nevada. It's
Yeah.
very
I've
I
heard
don't,
that.
I don't necessarily want to call it two-way state, but like a lot of people carry guns. I mean, Texas is probably the first, but and Nevada's up there. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
So
I mean, I think that at the end of the day, like our company, just to kind of close out on that, like the phone rings, we answer. Like you solve problems fast, and if you can be the best solvers, like that's really the mission. I mean, I like the Elon Musk quote that like you're paid directly proportionate to the difficulty of problems you solve. That's something that I live by.
I like that.
Um, and a lot of my clients, like they want to not have problems. They don't want to hear about it. I can appreciate that. They want me to get the call, me to solve the problem and tell them when it's solved.
Yeah, exactly.
So I try and build people that do that at scale, and building it at scale is hard. It's very hard. So yeah.
I think that's taught in the Marine Corps a little bit, like the little things. Instead of bringing it up to the top, you deal with it with the boys. You take care of the principal issue, and you don't report until you're done, and it's completely, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Try to
At the same time, I
facilitate.
have veterans in my organization that are like, "Hey, this happened. We did this," and I'm like, "I wish you would have told me." Like, I'm glad you did it. It sounds like it's okay, but I wish we would have taken
That's
like
what I'm saying.
this one or two extra
Yeah,
steps. And everything's a learning approach, man. Like you got to
of
give
course.
guys a break, and sometimes you got to give people more trust than they're probably ready for to see how they do. Sometimes somebody's probably ready for more trust and they don't get it right away yet. It's just
I'm a big fan of that.
it's a
I feel like when I was
I
like
don't know, man.
overseas, that happened to me. I got a lot of responsibility put on me, and I shined in that type of environment.
Yeah, we had lance corporals, squad leaders, and I think like to your point of like saying that those are some of the best times in your life. I feel that way too. I feel that if I talk about the purpose that I had, like I know on one hand, if I fucked up and did something over there, like it could be on NBC Nightly News, right? Like that could be a problem. We saw that happen throughout our tenure.
Multiple
And
times.
on the other hand, if I did something really good, I suppose it could be on the news, but more than likely nobody would hear about it and like the mission would keep rolling forward. That being said, like mission creep, mission changes, we saw, over multiple deployments, you see different things happen. Um, where are cars allowed to drive on the road? Well, they're not coming towards our convoy. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, let them in. They got to travel too. And you're like, all right, like, fuck, like we just got blown up fucking 2 years ago. Now we're like,
You're
now
just
it's
letting
cool.
them
All right.
in.
Like, it's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Like, please don't detonate. Please don't detonate.
Ugh.
Like,
Now,
yeah.
now, look, dude,
So you gotta,
talking to some of the guys at Abbey Gate, dude, they're telling me that the Taliban's right outside the gate. They're allowed to, what the what the
I think
fuck
there's
was
a
the
lot of stuff coming
ROE?
out about that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff coming out about that kind of because there's congressional investigations going on. And I don't, I'm not, I've read some of the headlines. I've probably read a few of the articles in total, but like they seem to be kind of reassessing the amount of gunfire and things like that. The intel. I mean, you and I both know like the shit we push out on intel into the public sector. Like
Of
we
course.
created narrative for it. And does
We
the
make it
narrative make
we make
sense?
it
Does it sound good?
believable. Yeah, you make it believable for the
Yeah.
masses. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't sound so good. Let's make a little more sense. Sound a little better. All right, cool. Let's send it out. Like
Yeah, redact that.
um, yeah, it's not. I mean, I don't know. I guess like now I kind of feel like, yeah, what story am I getting? And then I talked to a guy that was on the ground or something, and I'm fortunate to still be connected to a lot of those guys, whether it be throughout the security, the firearms industry, or the defense and aerospace industry and things like
It's
that, and,
because
and,
what you
and guys
just
that are my
said,
boys.
honestly, right there, that's why I don't believe anything I hear. Absolutely nothing. Because what is reported, is the victor always writes the story. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
you can witness a car crash, and the person driving is going to give you a different story than what you saw, right? Like you've been in
Facts.
gunfights where you see the debrief, and
Facts.
everybody's like, "This is how this happened." I'm like, well, I didn't see that happen that way, but
Yeah, exactly.
and then everybody gets home and they're all fucking heroes, like
If you
that's
say
that's how it
so,
rolls.
yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
I like drinking whiskey and telling some fucking lies too, man. Like I'm down with it. But
I'm glad you know
but
what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's like three, four, five sides to every story. I mean, I deal with that regularly. Like, all right, like I got to report, I got to go check the cameras. Cameras give me, usually a good portion of the story, but do I have audio? Do I have body camera footage? Do I have
Oh, do you
fucking,
guys have
eyewitness statements?
you guys roll with body cams?
It depends. I mean, it just depends on the job. There's certain clients that want a body cam, some clients don't want a body cam. You try and educate them on the benefits of it. In the Vegas environment, it can be a deterrent to some people that would act a fool.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes
it can
sense.
also like get people to act. It can be like escalatory to some people as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Um, your First Amendment auditors and stuff like that. God bless them. I'm glad they keep
Oh
everybody honest.
God. Jesus.
Um, it just depends. I mean, the more evidence, the better, man. Like I
Yeah,
really live
I
in
hear
that
you.
environment, so
I hear you. I hear that. It's crazy we're actually living in a time where that's, change it's actually changing crime to a certain degree. I had this conversation last night. The world we live in today, bro, like you don't see as much, I don't know, serial killers, violent I'm talking in the United States. Demographically, obviously, it's dependent, but crime has shifted significantly with phones, cameras, and online
Oh,
capabilities.
you mean like repeat crimes are not? Yeah, I mean your digital footprint is going to tell a story, right?
Yeah,
Like,
big
and
time.
I think it's unknown to the general public. It's unknown to me what the actual capabilities that law enforcement has. But you can go through and look at some of the cases, and you can get access. Like, oh, hey, this shit came off of an Alexa, or this shit came off of a phone, or this shit came off of Ring cameras. How it was obtained, whether through a warrant or whether through willful cooperation, et cetera. Different states have different laws. Um, I mean, I think we're definitely deterring career criminals. They get
Yeah,
caught faster, probably. But there's also, I'd go back to like Iraq and Afghanistan and the counterinsurgency warfare. Like the criminal elements, the terrorist elements, like they evolve over time too, and
that's
they
true.
may escalate up to a sophisticated, tactics, technique, procedure, and then de-escalate down to, or I don't know, de-escalate is not the right word, but they may go down to like, a long piece of string and a washer, right? Like anything they can to get the thing going. Like they're
Yeah,
gonna change their
you're
ways.
right.
And
You're right.
I mean, I think people need to start looking at like look at the bubble around you, around your house, around your apartment, whatever it is first. And like if it's not adequate, get involved with making it adequate.
Definitely.
Some of it is just you got to move. Like it's just like, dude, if you're living in an apartment paying like a few $100s a month or a few $1,000s a month, maybe I don't know, like it depends all over the country, but like if you're living somewhere where there's continuous crime and there's trap houses next to you and shit like that,
Yeah, gotta
probably
move.
get the fuck out of
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we live in a decent neighborhood out there, and I had a bunch of kids driving through my neighborhood like a year ago or so, shooting up, like just shooting out the window of their car, and like I didn't. We live on kind of the edge of the desert, so you hear fireworks out there. I woke up and I was like, that sounds like gunshots. I kind of like, looked around, checked all my cameras. I'm like, seems to be all quiet. Didn't hear anything else. Next morning, a cop came to my door and he's like, hey, can I look at your cameras? And I'm like, yeah, what happened? He's like, fucking teenagers had a big party, rager, had a car go around and shot like 47 rounds in the neighborhood. I'm like,
Damn.
I was like, I didn't want to be the crazy fucking veteran that was like, there's gunshots going on outside, but there was.
Let's go.
I shook up my wife and stuff. We're like, it's time to move. Like, and we're like, the neighborhood's still pretty good relative to other crime, and get involved with like homeowners associations. Whoever thought that was a good fucking idea could, yeah, a special place in hell for them.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I dealt with them as well.
I shouldn't say that because some homeowners associations are my clients, but like you have now a neighborhood government that has to act on
That's what
something,
I'm
and it's
saying.
hard to get people
Oh
to
my
agree.
God.
Um, I think
Miserable.
there's a lot of like individual education that, especially over the next few years, I intend to like kind of, I don't want to say mainstream that because I don't see myself being like some viral character that does that, but like I take a lot of pride in kind of breaking down the core components, as we used to call it, like the mission essential tasks of
Yep.
crimes, and like what can we do to intervene in that at what various stage, like early indication and warning. Can we tell it's going to happen before it happens? Do you have a guard gate? Can we scan license plates? Can we look at like access control? Um, Various businesses that becomes different challenges. Like some things are more restrictive, some things are more permissive. Being restrictive is kind of antithetical to business. So, I mean, you want
True.
to get as many customers in the door to spend as much money as possible. That's kind of how business generally works in capitalism. But um, yeah, it's just there's a lot of education piece that starts in the home. People need to have a plan. I'm not saying you need to go buy a gun tomorrow, but you should probably have cameras. If you look on your
Yeah.
block and you're one of like 5 houses out of 30 that don't have cameras, it's probably coming your way because you're
Yeah,
soft
exactly.
target.
Exactly.
You know,
Facts.
So
Yeah,
there's all kinds of different components to that. Have a plan. Do you know where your kid? What's the geometry of your house? Where do your kids sleep relative to where you sleep, relative to where the entryways to your house are? And we
I
teach
think
people
we're
this stuff.
gradually getting to a point where people are realizing that they have to be proactive in that, sense, being the time we live in. I mean, criminal, as you said, criminals are progressing and getting smarter. And,
Yep.
you know, if you're either going to be a wolf or a sheep. And I mean, if you're going to let yourself get, taken over easily by something like that, I mean, security cameras are your least of your worries. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't even have to go as far as security cameras, dude. You can have like they have those motion sensor lights. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like you can put around the
Yep.
house. Those actually work significantly. I'm sure it's some kind of
Deterrent.
deterrent.
Yeah.
Even the
It's
ring
different in different
cameras, dude.
areas. Yep.
Yeah,
Ring cameras. And it's I mean, the thing, so a lot of people kind of have the attitude of like, well, if it hasn't came to my doorstep, like I can kind
Right.
of ignore it, pretend the world's wonderful and everything will be fine. Well, the stuff that's happening in society, we go back to like the George Floyd riots and we go back to the times of the pandemic. Like if you own a business, you know that your insurance costs went up. You may not have had a loss event. And a lot of people are kind of, I don't say uneducated or naive or don't really care to how the world of insurance works, but like risk goes up, insurance goes up. And it's
Facts.
going to get to a point where like it is already at a point where people can't afford to do business because of the insurance costs and supply chain costs and everything else, inflation. It kind of just,
Interest rates.
what
Yeah.
comes around goes around, right?
Yeah.
So we have to do something for that. I mean, we do stuff every day for it, but I think I'd like to see society at large. I think that should be like taught in high school, like a general security class, like personal security,
Yeah.
personal responsibility or something.
Yep.
Um,
I agree with you.
but I don't know.
Yeah. What are we gonna
Different
do?
world.
I
Yep.
feel I feel like somehow veterans need to get united in some form because I don't know if it's getting veterans involved in politics, but the more I get involved with politics and I see who's like making decisions at the levels that influence significant things in our society, I don't know, man. I mean, I keep thinking I've been called a conspiracy theorist. I mean, I don't know what you consider conspiracy theories, but I like to say I'm a critical thinker. And I mean, I told you before, I don't believe everything that I'm told like this. And I don't know, man. Just watching how the Biden administration, and I'm not even like, I mean, I guess, I mean, I could be considered more right than left, but they fucking both lie. You know what I'm saying? Like they both are absolutely in the game just to fucking pad their bank accounts, you know? And it's getting to the point where capitalism is running the show completely. I mean, military industrial complex is scaring me at the point where I'm noticing that they're running the same blueprint for each engagement that's happening over there. You know, it's literally the same thing. And does the military industrial complex basically is funding both sides and keeping engagement running so the money keeps flowing. It's so obvious that Ukraine, the whole thing in Ukraine is a gigantic money laundering scheme. I don't understand how I don't understand how this shit is happening. And people are just casually talking.
I mean, it is. Well, first off, if I knew you're a conspiracy theorist, I would have never agreed to do this. Um, no, I don't. I mean, I don't think questioning things as conspiracy theorists. Like, I don't. I mean, like Smedley Butler wrote that pamphlet "War is a
I love
Racket,"
it. I
right?
love it.
Like,
Love it.
I don't know that like the times have changed as much as like your eyes. You become more critical of it, right? Like, we were part of that military industrial complex. Like, I
Facts.
was a dumb 18-year-old that like needed some guidance in life and found it with this cult that we call the machine gun cult. Like, and I
Yep.
fucking love it to this day. And I will
Yep.
like I love it. Like it's just it's it's interesting, man. Like, I mean, I consider myself like a capitalist in some realms. I also like I have a hard time explaining that when it comes to healthcare. So I had to like be like, well, I mean, maybe we should consider another route. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
not saying the current solution, and I'm not saying I'm smart enough to figure out the long-term solution. I've
No, of
seen,
course.
and I've been fortunate to know some veterans that have gone into politics at a high level, or at least interact with them. I won't call them like friends or anything. I worked in politics. I thought I wanted to do that with my life. When I was in Hawaii, when I was in Wounded Warriors, I applied for and accepted a position working for the Hawaii State Legislature, predominantly run by the Democratic Party. If you don't know this, surprise. Very environmental focused. Had some minor interactions with Tulsi Gabbard at the time, a young Tulsi Gabbard.
Yummy.
Brian Schatz, who's now a senator. And I worked for the rep for Kailua, Kaneohe, and Waimanalo,
Oh,
the
okay.
state rep. And so I dealt with constituent issues. I looked at proposals. I did committee research. I immersed myself into it, and I hated it after 3 months. And I was like, if I hate it, I'm onto something. I need to keep doing this.
Tell me
I
why.
don't.
What made you hate it?
It, it's slow, right? The representative democracy process is slow. Um, you have to kind of take into effect like what, and it's just not like, it's not built to be fast, right? Like it's not built to be like, hey, we need to make a decision now. And as evidenced by the Maui fires, as evidenced by Hurricane Katrina, as evidenced by like when bad shit happens, it takes a lot of, quote unquote smart people sitting in a room making a decision. And obviously the vendors and suppliers that are around all that stuff, like, you don't get your air conditioning fixed in the summer, I hope, right? Like you get it fixed in the winter. Like when
Yeah.
when the guy's not fixing everybody else's fucking AC, right?
Yep.
Like supply and demand matters. Capitalism says that these people need to buy these masks during COVID, so I'm going to jack up the price as much as I can. Um, and I'm not really a huge fan of price gouging. So like I'm somewhere on the spectrum of a capitalist, but I'm not like far right or far left or you ever want to say that. I found myself, I don't want to be a center. I'm not a centrist really. Like I'm pretty socially liberal. Like I'm like,
Okay.
do whatever you want. Like, enjoy your religion, enjoy your fucking sexual preference, enjoy your gender identity. Like keep it out of my face, not out of my fucking kid's
Yeah,
face. That's
exactly.
important to me. Um,
Same way.
like let me teach my kids stuff. I don't need
Yeah,
you
seriously.
to force that upon them. Um, I think that's important. I think a lot of people attach to a lot of like the propaganda, if you will, or like, I'm not a huge fan of Trump. I have a hard time seeing why veterans are behind Trump. Like that seems to be like something that's synonymous with that. I'm not a huge fan of Biden either. I'm not a huge fan of politicians, period. Like I like the Detroit Tigers, but I'm not rooting for anybody to win office. Like I am
Gotcha. Gotcha.
skeptical. I sit with politicians before they run. Like, out here, our gubernatorial race out here, I got to sit with the current governor now, Joe Lombardo, and I did more listening than I did more talking and asking questions. And he was a good talker, and he's a smart guy, and he's a veteran. He was also a sheriff for a long time, and I respected the guy. I wanted to see him win. I definitely was done with our other governor. Um, I was not going to vote for him, which again, my vote doesn't really fucking matter. Like I'm going to go do it because part of my civic duty, I feel. But like there's just a lot of other people that have different opinions, and
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
one small tiny piece of that. And I hope people make good decisions, but I hope they're skeptical for the right reasons, not like, well, I don't like how this guy tweets, or I like that this guy's a decent human, like whatever the fuck that means. Like that was kind of like the taglines that were attached to things. Trump scares me a little bit. Biden
Of
scares
course.
me a
How
lot
could he
more, I
not?
think, at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that might be good though, right? Like that might be good. I
To
like the
me,
like
to me,
like
he's
this.
just the lesser of the evils, man. Trump. I mean, I'm not saying I'm
Well,
a huge fan of him. Biden has just he's fucked up so much shit in my mind, or not, or just not done anything at all. Pick which one.
yeah. I mean, the thing with politicians too is like as soon as you get excited, like this person could be good for it, then like like clockwork, you're like, oh man, he said that, like that type of thing. Like I don't know. I don't fall in love with any of them. I hope that they have what they need to do their job, but I also kind of in working in a small segment of the country that's really very niche to what the rest of the country does for about a year and a half on the political side in a state legislature, like the it's a lot to turn the battleship. What I mean? It takes a lot. You got to go kind of 1 degree at a time, nudge economics, nudge policies. You got to kind of move things along that way. People don't respond well to like what was like the recent one. Like I don't even want to touch this conversation with a 10-foot pole. I'll be honest with you, but like abortion is now illegal. Like
Oh, I
people
know.
were outraged about that. To me, I'm like, fuck. Like I mean, I'm glad I never had to deal with that. And also,
Yeah.
like I almost feel like I shouldn't be able to vote for that. And I did a little bit of reading, and I was like, wow, Roe v. Wade was not really solid case precedent. I mean, it just didn't really
No,
do it for a
you're
lot of
right.
lawyers that I talked to.
Yep. Yep.
I'm like, all right, so there's it doesn't make sense to me, but it also kind of makes sense as to how we got here, right? Um,
I
and
mean,
I feel
the
for
argument is always just rape. Like if a female is raped, should she still have to have the kid? You know what I'm saying? Like, should she be able to,
I'd like to say no. I'd
right?
like to say that she shouldn't. That's not very Catholic of me though either, right? Like
Exactly. That's
that's and again, recovering Catholic. I mean, I don't know. It's everything is paradoxical in a way.
of
So I
course, of
don't
course.
get. I'm a lot more nuanced in the older I get. But I try and listen to people, and I realize that the more I talk to people and get to know people, like people come from different walks of life, they have different experiences. They think differently. They were raised differently. They had, different friend groups and cultures that were behind them. And I don't know exactly what's right for America. I hope we get more on track with things. Like I hope we get back a hold of like whatever the American dream is, whether it's owning a business or owning a house. Like I'm afraid for my kid to be able to like ever move out of the house. Like, I mean, I
What
hope
do you
I'm
think
making
about the
enough money.
border?
Uh, I like I don't want to say like the order of precedence that I want to see things change, but like I think we need a better system. Obviously, that's the answer
Yeah,
for it.
for
I
sure.
don't know if the answer is shut the fucking gates, post dudes up from reserve battalions and national guards all over the place, and stop letting people through. Get a solid vetting process in hand, and then bring some more equity to the immigration process. Right? Like I've had friends that fought for this country that are just waiting in line, and like they can't get a hold of anybody at immigration. They maybe get a notice like every 6 months on something, and they're like, all right, man, maybe someday I'll be a citizen. And then he didn't get a 50. I don't even know if this is true, but like he didn't get a $50,000 debit card and a flight to another city. Like I don't know if that's true. I mean, there's just so much
No, I hear
bullshit. I
you.
don't believe it all out
I
there.
get
But
it.
like
I get it.
I don't think we can sustain it. I think immigration is wonderful. Like I think we need a
Yeah.
diverse
Of course.
population.
Of course.
I also think we need to like make it good enough for the people that already live here too, right?
Absolutely.
Like we got. I think the Maui fires bothered me. I mean, in
What do you think
when
about
one
that,
bucket of
dude?
money,
About
like, well, how did it happen?
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I believe it was space lasers or anything like that. Like, it seems the most plausible explanation seems that there was like archaic wiring and a fire started, right?
I
And
want to
like,
believe that. I want to believe that very bad. It just there's
I,
so many like things that just like are just odd about the situation.
well, like disaster is an opportunity for a lot of people and it's a tragedy for some, like that's a really hard thing to look at. And when you've got competing land developers and
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
the I don't know if socioeconomics the right word, but like Hawaii is very tightly held by Hawaiian blood. And I think that,
Facts.
in a way it should be, right? Like I think in a way it very much should be. But if it ends up being a bunch of people that were born in Hawaii and are multi-generational and have, their roots in Hawaii and they get uprooted from their homes and shoved into an Airbnb for 8 months while we're dumping billions of dollars into Ukraine, I have a hard time with that, right?
Yeah, of
Like,
course. Of
how
course.
how do we do that shit? Katrina was hard. I did rescue swimming and just general like support operations during Hurricane Harvey, and like watching the Houston Police Department and Texas Task Force One and the heroic shit they did out there, but the challenge of organization and the logistical challenges to it, it was astonishing. It
Yeah.
was disappointing in a way, but it was also like, all right, there's individual cops and individual police departments and fire departments and everybody out here doing all kinds of crazy stuff that is wonderful and it's helping people. But like, how do we get here on this?
Of
Like,
course.
how do we get here where there's, elderly people sitting in the second story of their house, like waiting to get some insulin, like we got
Shit show.
solutions for this shit. Let's get it there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Now,
I don't know,
are
man.
you now I told you that I did some private security work for a little while. Are you starting to I mean, you've been doing it for a little longer than me now. Are you starting to see that like there's a lot of guys that are involved with a lot of like questionable things like I've seen a lot of guys, I don't know, blacked out SUVs transporting illegal immigrants up and down the West Coast and going, I don't know
I've
where.
seen I've seen like some of the social stuff on it. I question the efficacy of a 30-second social clip, right? Like
Of course,
whether
how
it's
could you not?
staged or whether it's something completely different. I I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that, I suppose. I mean, I guess what would be the purpose of that, right? Like to move to
Something.
like I mean, I guess I should say that like I've seen it on a point where I was just like next,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever, dude. Like I'm not subscribing to the propaganda machine right now. But what's your thoughts on it? What I mean, I guess to go a little deeper into it because I don't think I have like a huge. What's the
I don't,
objective of it? I suppose.
I'm not sure. I just didn't know if you had been approached by like either some kind of federal body for like transporting.
No, I mean,
I,
there's some public-private partnership in um, warrant prisoner transport. There's obviously like, I don't want to call them bounty hunters, but there's like bail bondsmen and things out there that usually have, monetary interest in recovering a fugitive. That's typically going to go to a higher level task force. I'm not super, I, I guess like I've been in situations that like you had to do a little cowboy shit to get something done.
of course,
Um, and you operate in the confines of the law, but like you also have to be resourceful. I mean, I've worked in
yes,
riots, I've worked in stuff like that where you're like, fuck, man, like the cops don't seem to be doing what not like the cops aren't out there doing it, but like the cops don't seem to be behaving the way I would predict the cops would be behaving right now, whether for better or for worse. So what do we do and how do we change like how our approach to this if you can't call anybody, right? Because they're busy elsewhere, that type of thing. So, and we, it's a state where like you use lethal force to defend life. Lethal force to defend property, not generally advised, but that
yeah, it's a tough one.
boundary of property and life comes, it's kind of a razor's edge. So, I haven't had to, pull a trigger in the private sector. I've been in a couple of situations where I've had guns pointed at me by people that were on a lot of drugs.
Oof, that's
And
a
we
tricky
were able
one,
to
dude.
use some good de-escalation. I mean, I could tell you some guys were pulling the slack out of their triggers when that happened. And I'm glad they didn't because the outcome of it was, an addict got another chance in life. And
Gotcha,
the person we were working for had a relationship with said addict, right? So like,
gotcha, gotcha.
and I think a young cop probably would have made a different decision in that
Of
scenario.
course, of
Not to
course,
shit on them, but like experience matters, right? So,
absolutely,
I mean, I want to be able to like, go to my deathbed like thinking I was a good person in life. I think
of
that's
course.
important to me. And um, I mean, there's like Nevada's like the home of like Area 51 and all
Sodom
that
and
shit,
Gomorrah.
and yeah, oh yeah, that too. I love it. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us out here. I get interested in seeing the stuff goes on. I did a little. I used to do like op4 work for some of the spooky guys and stuff. That was a
Oh,
cool
cool.
gig. Um, but I don't really, I don't pursue a lot of that per se. There's also been a big shift in the supply of what we used to call like private military contractors, right? Like you got to think with Afghanistan drawing down, Iraq drawing down, there's still people working over there, more so probably in Iraq than Afghanistan at this point. But all those guys came back home and are looking for work. And a lot of them don't want to do work, protecting a mall. I don't blame them, but like there's a lot more people competing for the high level residential security teams, mobile executive protection details, things where you travel around with a client. We've found our niche in supporting um, existing teams that work with high net worth individuals and usually business folk that aren't like super readily recognizable, and have something to preserve and typically have a kidnap and ransom policy on them provided by their corporation or their company. And we aid those teams with getting around Las Vegas. I mean, I find more of my job as being a concierge than it is a trigger puller.
Yeah,
Still got
of
to be
course.
good at pulling triggers, but it's a skill that like has to be at 99 or 100%. And I'm probably going to use it like 0.0001%, if not,
Yep,
farther on
that's
in
how it
my
goes,
life.
bro.
Carry a
Well,
tourniquet, all that
yep.
stuff. Like it's you're more likely to use that. So,
Well, we're getting near the 2 hour mark, brother. You want to maybe leave us with one thing? What would you recommend for maybe a veteran like yourself getting out of the military that wants to start, a business like yourself? What would you tell them?
um, consider where you're at in experience, right? Like, are you a subject matter expert in that field? Are you going to become a subject matter expert by starting your own business? Because then, there's a kind of a fake it till you make it component that some people do, and that's tough. You got to have a lot of things go right. Timing matters. I mean, you can have the best idea and the best work ethic. And, if you start up a business and get hit by a pandemic tomorrow, good luck because it's fucking hard. I think to me, uh, had enough experience in the military to be a subject matter expert per se. I've gained substantial expertise throughout time in doing it. Managing people is challenging, very challenging. Your ability to manage people doesn't necessarily scale with how many people you have to hire. So you have to have good people and you have to delegate and trust what they do. Um, I think we live in an era where a lot of the things being pushed to you on social media and diatribe and schools, like go start your own business. Maybe go out there and look at a business that's running well, that somebody is getting older and ready to make an exit in the near future, and see what kind of things you can learn from them. You don't have to be in the security industry. You might want to be a plumber or a pipe fitter or a damn lineman or a lawyer or something like that. Like you go start your own practice, but you could also go learn from some of the experts that are ready to
Yep.
retire and ride off into the sunset. And they might let you buy 1% of their company or 100% of their company. They may give you good financing terms. That might be a good option. I didn't do that. So um, I, I, I think enjoy the ride,
Yeah.
appreciate the research and development, know when to take your licks. When you screw up, just own that you screwed up and fix it. Like, and if it's just admitting that you screwed up and telling people that you screwed up, like you got to wear that on your sleeve. And,
Some people have a
you
hard
got
time
to,
with that, bro. You know that.
it's hard, man. It's hard. There's been times where I'm like, oh, all right, in the middle of the night, like, all right, somebody
Do I
screwed
make
up. I got
that
to call
call? Yeah.
it. You got to know when to call the client to. There's a lot of factors that go into being successful. And then what's your opinion of success is? My opinion of success was being able to be in a business where I was surrounded by the caliber of people that I previously enjoyed being surrounded by. Um, and then being able to kind of send that elevator back down to the new guys coming in and solve a complex set of problems. And I'm never short on that work. So that's what kind of keeps me going. Um, so much so that like I've worked myself, into burnout phases and stuff. You got to be conscious of that. I also think cherish your mental health. You got
Yeah.
to treat, I don't say like treat your body like that, but take care of yourself. Go
Yeah,
get
for
help.
sure.
Speak up when you need help. That's huge. Have people you can talk to, and if you don't, like, okay, I'm not going to put my phone number out on here, but like, there's ways to get a hold of people that will talk to you, even if they don't know you. Um,
Call your
come on a
boys.
fucking podcast and air your shit to the world. I guess I don't know. So yeah, I don't just be bold, man. Fortune favors the brave. I
I
believe
love
that.
it. I love
So
it. Well said,
yep.
bro. Well, there you have it, guys. Episode 104 of the books. Matt, thanks for coming by, man. I'll stay in touch with you and Semper Fi, brother.
Aloha. 7-5, brother. Be good.
Chill.
See you.